This is the Aventon Sinch 2.5. Yes, 2.5. You might be wondering, why would they name it the 2.5? Well, we'll talk about that and much more in this full review. First, I'll walk through all the components. Then we'll get into some first-person riding footage, talk about how the bike performs. And finally, some third-person riding footage where I'll give you the pros and cons of Aventon's folding electric bike. But first, let's take a closer look. I am really glad that this bike now exists because the previous generation Sinch really needed some upgrades in order to compete with other folding bikes on the market. So I guess Aventon wasn't ready to give this the 3 moniker. So we have a 2.5, though I wouldn't have faulted them if they called it the Sinch 3 because this bike has quite a few upgrades. The main 2 though are the new display. It's the same one that we saw on the Abound SR, and also hydraulic disc brakes. That's the biggest one for me. Besides that, a lot of the components are the same. The bike looks the same. We still have a torque sensor. Another minor change is the left-hand thumb throttle, but more importantly, we also have a new Shimano drivetrain on this bike. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But first, pricing, $17.99 on the Sinch 2.5. And after this review, if you've decided to pick up any Aventon electric bike, do me one quick favor and use our link in the description before you make your purchase. And even if you buy it in store, just email me at ryan@ebikeescape.com. Share with me your receipt because we can still get credit. Thank you so much for your support. The bike is offered in 2 colors. We went with the Sage colorway, but you also can get it in Midnight Black. The standover height right here is just 15.35 inches, very easy to get your leg over. Aventon advertises this bike for riders all the way down to 4'11", up to 6'2". I'm a 6' tall rider with a 32-inch inseam, and with the seat post in its highest position, I can still get full leg extension, but be mindful if you're taller. This bike is really going to be ideal though for shorter riders. The weight capacity is 300 pounds. The bike weighs 68 pounds. It is IPX4 rated, and that means it can withstand splashes from any direction. And yes, of course, this is their folding electric bike. We will fold it towards the end of the walkaround. First though, let's walk through all the components. Now, many brands with their folding models have moved to narrower tires, so some might like that Aventon continues to include 20 by 4-inch wide tires on the Sinch 2.5. These are from Innova. They have a diamond tread, designed mostly for street riding, though of course being 4 inches wide, you can certainly take these off-road, lower the tire pressure a little bit. Just keep in mind it's not an aggressive tread pattern. Attaching the front wheel is a bolt-on axle, and this is a good time to talk about how the bike ships because this bike ships virtually assembled. All I had to do was adjust the stem plate here to adjust the handlebars to my preference. So very easy assembly that many will appreciate. Of course, Aventon also has 1,800 plus dealers around the United States. So chances are you also live near an Aventon dealership, both for sales, yes, but also for service. One of the biggest changes, in my opinion, on the 2.5 is the move from mechanical disc brakes to Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. Really happy to see that. Those are paired with 180 millimeter rotors, both in the front and in the rear. The front suspension is branded Aventon, but it's actually from a company called Trauma. It's stamped right there. Preload adjustment on the left, lockout on the right. For a cleaner look, they've blacked out the stanchions, and the front suspension fork offers 45 millimeters of travel. This is what you can expect. Included are metal fenders in the front and in the rear. Let's talk about the lights that run off the main battery. First, in the front here, attached to the front fork. It's nice and bright, and when you move the handlebars, the light also moves. The rear lights are integrated into the stays. They are not brake actuated, but you do get turn signals. Aventon badge on the front, 4-bolt pattern for mounting a front rack. Really nice cable management. They run through the frame on both sides. This is the latch where the front handlebars can fold. We'll get to that in a minute. The handlebars are adjustable with this quick release up and down, though as a taller rider, I still like them in their lowest position. though you can go really high if you want to. Just be mindful of the minimum insertion point. Moving on to the cockpit, Tektro hydraulic disc brake levers. There are no motor cutoffs, left-hand thumb throttle, rubber grips, non-locking, and Shimano's 8-speed trigger shifter. This is Aventon's new display, power button in the center, time in the top left with the light indicator. Turn the lights on by holding pedal assist up. Battery capacity in the top right, miles per hour front and center, pedal assist in the bottom right, off, eco, tour, sport, and turbo. And as you're pedaling, this will indicate how much power you're getting from the motor. Turn signals left and right, and there is an indicator. It does eventually turn off by itself. Walk mode can be engaged by holding pedal assist down. And pushing the center button cycles through other helpful information such as trip and trip time, trip average and trip max speed, odometer and total time, and finally total average speed and total max speed. The advanced settings can be accessed by holding pedal assist up and down at the same time. This is where you can clear your trip, change the display unit, brightness, auto power off, system info, set the date and time, but perhaps most importantly, you can connect to the app. So I'll go into my Aventon app, hit pair, scan the QR code. We'll name this the Sinch 2.5, hit pair. Now within the app, you can do a lot of the things that you can do on the display, including turning on the lights, changing the pedal assist level, but perhaps more importantly, you can change the speed limit from a class 2 electric bike with a top speed of 20 miles per hour, whether you're using the throttle or pedal assist, up to a class 3 electric bike, though they do limit the speed to 25 miles per hour. The throttle will still stop at 20 miles per hour. So change that to 25 miles per hour for our upcoming first-person riding footage. And the app can also help you find your nearest dealer, view maintenance intervals. They'll give you recommendations for your next recommended service. You can, of course, record a ride. You can also view your recorded rides. In the Discover tab, you can connect with other Aventon riders, see what they're up to. And in the Me section, there is some gamification where you can earn some medals depending on how much you ride. So that is the Aventon app and the display, but I forgot one thing. There is a USB-C port located on the right of the display. And these handlebars have a nice swoop up to them, and because the display is mounted to the left, it's perfect for mounting our cell phone mount. This is the quick release one, available at shop.ebikeescape.com. Moving on to the frame, the nice wide step through, Aventon branding on the down tube, some graphics on the seat stays here, Sinch down here. Let's talk about the battery as well as the charger. Included is a 3-amp charger. And what I really like about the Sinch 2.5 is the top load battery, just so much easier to remove and put back in. I'll turn the key to the left to release the battery and simply pull it out. The battery is 48 volt, 14 amp hours. Charger port here, or you can charge the battery when it's in the bike. Simply lift this rubber cover. There's a light indicator to give you an idea of the current capacity by pushing this button. The battery is UL 2271 certified. The entire bike's electronics are UL 2849. And if you're looking for some protection for your e-bike battery, be sure to check out our e-bike battery bags at shop.ebikeescape.com. The small size fits this one perfectly. To put the battery back in, terminals first. Push into place, turn the key to the right, and you can remove the key. They're yellow so you don't lose them. You also get a nice accessory box. Of course, a user manual, some stickers, 2 reflectors, a nice multi-tool, grease, and some spare parts, including a replacement derailleur hanger. You get plastic folding pedals, push in, tilt up to fold. This is where the bike can rest when it's folded. There's a rear-mounted kickstand, an Aventon branded saddle complete with a suspension C-post. This is what you can expect out of the suspension C-post. The included rear rack has a 55-pound capacity. It's a 500-watt geared hub motor in the rear with 60 newton meters of torque. We'll see how it performs up our hill climb test. And yes, it's engaged with a torque sensor, which is somewhat of a rarity on some of these folding electric bikes, especially in the sub $2,000 price point. In the rear, 12 to 32 teeth, again 8 speeds, and in the front, a dual-sided 48 tooth front chainring. The shifter is Shimano Altus, very common on the bikes that we review. Next, let's fold the bike. First the pedals, then I'll fold the handlebars, lift up the ball and pull out. Those will come down. And then the main lever, simply push in the red button and pull out. This is where I like to use my leg to brace it and bring the bike around. Put up the kickstand and bring the frame together. And there you have it, a folded Aventon Sinch 2.5. This is where I would then put it in a tote for easy transport. And there's a look at where the tires come together. Just note that you have a little bit more width than you otherwise would with a fat tire bike with narrower tires. The bike rests nicely on its stand. With that, let's get into some first-person riding footage and see how the bike performs. All right, let's get started. Our first test will be throttle only. We'll get up to 20 miles per hour. You get full access to the throttle in any pedal assist level, though with pedal assist turned off, no access to the throttle. And just keep in mind, no motor cutoffs on this bike, so something to be aware of from a safety standpoint. All right, here we go. Throttle only, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Nice takeoff. 13, 15, 16, 18, 19, and the Aventon display is reading 20 miles per hour. And keep in mind, it is a very cold day today. So imagine the GPS is just a little bit off. So about what I would expect from a 500 watt motor. Still plenty of power, but eases you on nice and easy, which I think is good for accessibility. All right, let's go into the various pedal assist levels. Keep in mind, this is a torque sensor, so I get more power from the motor, the more power that I'm putting in to my legs. We'll start off in eco, and in first gear though, I know we're going to have to shift up. Here we go. And in each pedal assist level, I'll just give it a little bit of effort, just spinning my legs nice and easy, and then I'll put in a little bit more effort so you can get an idea of what to expect. But I do need to shift up third, fourth gear here. All right, very gentle cadence, 10 miles an hour. It's gonna be interesting to see how they tuned this torque sensor. So 10 miles an hour, very doable, and we do have some wind coming at us. Let's put in a little bit more effort here. Shift up to fifth gear. I wouldn't even call this a ton of effort, but we're already getting to 13 miles an hour. Let's go into tour, see what the cruising speed is. Go up to sixth gear. Very easy to cruise at 15, 16 miles an hour. And a little bit more power. Let's see if we can get close to 20. Yeah, I need to shift up to seventh gear. Remember, that's of 8. And yeah, we're cruising at 20 miles per hour. Without too much effort, putting in some, can feel some pressure on my legs. All right, let's go up to sport mode. It seems like they tuned this in a way that you get a decent amount of power from the motor without having to put in too much effort yourself. Unless you want to, of course. Staying in eco. But cruising speed in sport mode, 18 or 19 miles an hour. And a little bit more power. 21, 22, I'm gonna shift up to 8th gear. Going 22, remember the top speed will be 25. Aventon display reading 24 for a second there. All right, turbo from a stop. Let's see how fast the acceleration is. And there we go. Can definitely hear the motor. Probably about average sound. All right, 21, 22. Yeah, super easy to get up over 20. And just spinning my legs, super easy, 23. And a little bit more effort. Let's see if we can get to 25. All right, putting in a decent amount of effort, and Aventon display reading 26. There's 25 on the GPS. All right, let's test out these hydraulic disc brakes now on the Sinch 2.5. All right, here we go. And yeah, with these wider tires, you just get so much grip. And we have had so much experience with Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. They perform very nicely. Loving the trigger shifters. I really like the slight swoop to these handlebars instead of the T-style. And as I mentioned, these handlebars are at their lowest position. I could maybe raise them up slightly, but feels pretty good. Pretty upright riding position on a bike like this. The suspension seat post, in my opinion, is pretty basic. I, of course, prefer the one that we sell, though any of the higher quality ones are going to do a lot more when you're going over bumps. So you might want to consider that. Seat actually feels quite nice. A little bit wider, not a ton of comfort, but a seat I could sit on for a while, put a lot of miles on. And overall, just a fun, more accessible, still fat tire electric bike. But I want to see what it does up our hill climb test. Let's get to that. Welcome to the hill climb test. This is the hill that I test out all the electric bikes that I review on the channel. The GoPro makes it look so much smaller than it is, so we'll put up a picture as well as the specs of the hill. And our first test will be throttle alone, and we will see what the minimum speed is of this 500 watt motor. I have no doubt it will make it up. All right, hill is starting now, going down to 17. 16, and yes, the bars are maxed out on the display, showing I'm getting maximum power out of the motor. 14 miles an hour. And I did have a full charge before I started the test riding footage. We're at 87% right now. And we are getting to the top of the hill. 14 miles an hour, minimum speed, very impressive and very competitive with a lot of the other folding electric bikes on the market. But this is a bike after all, so I'll go back down and I'll talk through how it feels while using the torque sensor. All right, here we go. While pedaling, I will go into Eco, and I'm going to shift all the way down. I have it in first gear, and I think the way this bike is geared, I could make it up in Eco pedal assist level 1, not providing a ton of power. Still some pressure on the legs, of course, but very doable. 8 miles an hour. Hill's getting a little steeper now, feeling like I have to put a little bit more power into my legs now, but still cruising at 7 miles an hour. Imagine most people are going to want to go in a higher pedal assist level. All right, tour now. Still about 7 miles an hour. Now, if I do put in more power to my legs, I do get more power from the motor, going about 9 miles an hour. I could maybe shift up to second gear. Let's go into sport mode. Not a huge difference there, just spinning my legs nice and easy. Though, yes, I can hear the motor and feel the power putting in more effort. All right, let's go into turbo. And still cruising up at 8 miles an hour. So to really get more power from the motor up a hill like this, you do need to put a little bit more effort in. I'll shift up to third gear so I can put more effort in. A little bit easier. Not spinning my legs so easily. Going up at about 11 miles an hour. So you might want to use that throttle to guarantee that you have maximum power out of the motor. And then of course you can still pedal alongside of it. We know the motor is plenty capable of getting you up a hill. All right. With that, let's get into some third-person riding footage. I'll give you my concluding thoughts on the Aventon Sinch 2.5. The folding e-bike market, at least the affordable segment from my perspective, really has two distinct sides, so it's helpful to understand the differences. On one end, you've got budget folding e-bikes typically priced around $1,000. They usually come with 10 amp hour batteries, cadence sensors, and are often sold by direct-to-consumer brands. Then you have bikes like the Aventon Sinch 2.5, priced at $17.99, which includes a torque sensor for a more natural riding experience, a larger 14 amp hour battery, color LCD display, app connectivity, and a sleeker look thanks to its integrated battery. And there's simply just less folding e-bike models with these features since most brands have decided to play in the affordable category. Some of the things I like about the Sinch 2.5 is that the battery is top loading, a detail that some folks overlook, just so easy to put in and remove your battery. Aventon also throws in a suspension Seatpost, which isn't something we see very often, but don't expect too much from its performance. Another unique Aventon touch is their integrated frame lights with turn signals. The Shimano Drivetrain is perfectly fine for recreational riding, and the trigger shifter is a nice upgrade from the previous generation. It's also now great to see Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, a well-known name in brakes. One of the biggest benefits though of this Sinch 2.5 is Aventon's extensive dealer network with over 1,800 dealers across the United States, and considering the price, I don't feel Aventon is charging an unreasonable premium for that perk. The 4-inch wide tires are popular with many riders. I've heard from some folks that they don't like that many other brands have moved to 3-inch wide tires. That's more of a personal preference thing. I also appreciate the wide step-through frame on the Sinch 2.5. Motor power feels sufficient and maybe even a bit more than you'd expect out of a 500 watt motor. It handled our hill climb test with relative ease. In my opinion, Aventon was smart with the tuning of the torque sensor, making it easier than some of the other electric bikes that we review to hit higher cruising speeds. And lastly, as far as benefits go, if you don't plan to buy from a dealer, assembly is a cinch. Sorry, bad pun. Of course, there are a few considerations with the Sinch 2.5. Firstly, taller riders should spend some extra time looking at the geometry, or perhaps a better option, just go with the Adventure 2 unless you have to have a folding e-bike. I felt comfortable on the Sinch at 6 feet tall, but my wife, who's 5'5", felt even more at home on it. It's worth mentioning that the Sinch 2.5 doesn't have motor cutoffs with the brakes, which isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but is something to be aware of with any e-bike that has a throttle. I'm actually surprised Aventon didn't include it here. I would have liked to see bottle cage bosses. Maybe they could have added them to the battery like they did on the Aventon Abound SR, but you can always use a strap-on accessory to add bosses. We sell one at shop.ebikeescape.com. I know there will be at least a handful of you down in the comment section wishing that Aventon allowed this bike to reach 28 miles per hour. I think that's a fair criticism. And yes, the left-hand display has benefits, but it is undoubtedly smaller, making it harder to see at a quick glance. You can always pair the bike with Aventon's app or use a speedometer app like I do for better visibility. It's great that Aventon includes fenders and a rear rack, though keep in mind the rack isn't welded to the frame, so it might have a lower weight capacity compared to some other folding e-bikes you might be looking at. If we've helped you in your e-bike purchase decision, I have one small favor. Please use our link in the description before you buy. It's free. Thank you so much for your support. These upgrades to the Sinch 2.5 are welcome changes, and they help the Sinch 2.5 secure its spot on our list of best folding e-bikes. Plus, it's backed by Aventon's 2-year warranty over the standard 1-year warranties we typically see. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.